Lance, yet another Leafs season in the books. Let's give out some awards. Let's have some fun here. Off the top, MVP, Toronto Maple Leafs 2017-18.
Well, unfortunately, it didn't end in the third period in Boston the way he wanted, but certainly Frederik Andersen sets a record for single-season victories by a Leaf goaltender. How many times did he save this team's bacon, especially with their sort of error-filled breakouts and some other calamities that required him to make some big saves, 5-on-5, shorthanded. You know what? Is he the answer going forward to winning a cup? Who knows? But if you're talking about the regular season, certainly he's up there with Ed Belfour and Curtis Joseph as probably the best Leaf goalie we've seen in the last 20, 25 years.
Well, in that workload, he was put to the test this year, and Austin Matthews wasn't healthy, so he was sort of out of that MVP conversation. So I agree with you there. How about most surprising? What player jumped off the page at you that you didn't really think was going to have this type of season?
Well, it's hard to say that Mitch Marner surprised people, but I had to like his durability. I had to like the way he carried himself through the season. Again, we all know he's a player who makes something out of nothing, but I thought, just the way he sustained offense, led the team in scoring, 69 points, and also I believe did so in playoffs. He impressed me just from a growth aspect. Again, he's not going to surprise people, but you talk about the players that surprised the Bruins, and a couple of them said after Game 7 he was certainly one of them.
I would go with Ron Hainsey just because in the summer when they made that signing, I thought, what are they doing? Are they taking a step back here? Are they just acquiring a veteran defenseman for the sake of acquiring a veteran defenseman? And he turned out to work out very well.
You could also say Patrick Marleau in that sense. Took a huge risk with him and moved up, to a 37, 38-year-old. Lou Lamoriello, the general manager, said, yes, he's old, but he's the right 37-year-old to bring in, and certainly he was able to add something, get 20 goals, and really beat expectations in many ways.
Okay, well, let's go with most improved. Let's go down the list here. Which player do you think would be worthy of that sort of award?
Well, you know what? There would be 2 or 3 of them. I think if Morgan Rielly, I think, again, stepped up in a year where the Maple Leafs didn't make a big deal for a defenseman. He was a player who, again, gained a lot of stature on and off the ice, proved to be a workhorse right up till taking a puck in the face in Game 7 and come back and playing well. I certainly think Kasperi Kapanen moved up as well. There's a guy who could probably play top 6 if the lines weren't moved the way they were. I thought he was impressive as well. And Connor Brown, I guess, kind of an up and down year, but you don't always see what guys like him and Zach Hyman is another player I put in there can do for this team. And if you're talking about the Leafs building off defense, those are 2 guys who are just total puck hounds, and they've been able to generate a lot of scoring chances for their lines by the way they've adapted to playing against some of the best lines and the best individual players in the NHL.
All right, let's leave this on a negative note, sort of how the season ended. Most disappointing performance from a player who just didn't really meet expectations.
I thought about this question, and I'd rather go big picture with it. I think the disappointing part is they didn't get the picture solved on defense. They talked all year about it. Now they're going into the next season with, again, what do we do with Jake Gardiner? Do we bring in a free agent? So that's come full circle, and still no resolution. Are the young guys ready? Well, some were, some weren't. I thought, Austin Matthews in the end didn't have a great playoff. That's not to say it wasn't a good season for him, but he was injured. We didn't see him at full value. And certainly, really, are the young kids as a whole ready for next season? Are they ready to take the jump? Do they have what it takes? And unfortunately, it was one playoff series. They did go one game further than last year, but is this group ready to take the jump? Those are things, I guess, that are still unanswered going into, I guess, the third or fourth year of Mike Babcock behind the bench. And I guess Babcock himself wanting to get more from his team, 105 points in regular season, tough playoff matchup to start, but they could have gone further.
For my most disappointing, it's probably Nikita Zaitsev. Last year, probably exceeded expectations, signs this big contract, and lost a step, seemed not as focused. I don't know what was going on there. I don't want to, speculate too much, but something happened there where now people are scratching their heads going, what's up with that contract?
He had the injury, injuries affect different people. Some people step right back in, and we've seen Rielly have a couple of, incidents that way and come back without any harm. But first the ankle and then the virus. He wasn't the same player, I agree. And there's a player who committed long-term to Toronto, hoping the Leafs thought they'd found somebody right off the boat who could step in and play top 4 minutes, and it definitely was a step backward for him.
Okay, I lied before. One last thing.
Sure.
Give this Maple Leafs team a grade in terms of A, B, C, D, in regards to expectations coming into the season and how it all sort of shook out.
Well, you know what? Again, I'm reluctant to hang the whole season on the third period. In Boston, it was a good comeback. It was a terrible start to the series. A good comeback to stretch it to 7. But overall, if you're asking me, I'd say a B-. There was a lot of improvements, but there was also a chance there to go further and see how far this team could take itself, and missed opportunity. So I'd say B-.